Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing? Same week, another episode of Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm Shaun Holko alongside my guys, Kevin Dent, Jaevon, Garry. We're back with another episode this week. And guys, we have a very, very special bonus episode and a very special guest. Toddy, I want to toss it to you. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it. Could you please introduce our special guest for us?
This guy really needs no introduction. You've seen him on ESPN since about 1990. You're looking for college football, he's there. You're looking for WNBA, he's there. You're looking for NBA. The guy's he's called finals games, my God. This guy literally needs no introduction. Mr. Mark Jones, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It was a long time overdue. You guys do fantastic work. Big fan of your work, and glad to be a guest on the show to chop it up a little bit. I didn't realize it was 33 years at ESPN. Wow, I'm old.
You're looking prime time and looking 21, Mark.
Yeah, trying, man. On that Versa climb every day, trying to scale the mountain, tame the beast.
There you go.
Well, I'm just going to start things off because, Mark, I have never met you formally in person, but since you now are a broadcaster for the Sacramento Kings here in the 916, I've seen you at a couple Kings games. I'm a fan myself. And when I've seen you walking to the back area of the concourse on the lower bowl, I've just said hello to you a couple times, and every single time you greeted me back. And I just thought that was just so nice of you. And the last time that I saw you, I was just like, hey, Mark, your vocabulary is immaculate. And you were just like, thanks, my man. And that's just something that I have always admired about you. I mean, listening to you do college football and NBA on ESPN for years, I picked up on it, but listening to you on a game-to-game basis here in Sacramento now, like I've really gotten to know you a lot better. And so I just wanted to start off by asking you, what goes into that? Because like I'm an Eminem fan. He had a story like way back when that he used to read the dictionary to learn different words. And so like what went into that for you trying to expand your vocabulary?
Well, it's funny because one of the best books that I've ever read, and I still think the best book that I've ever read, is the autobiography of Malcolm X. And through his journey, he talks about being incarcerated at one stage of his life and reading the dictionary from cover to cover. And that inspired me. But prior to that, my father was very fluent in Latin and very fluent in Spanish as well as English, his primary language. And his father, my grandfather, when we used to visit him, my older brother and I, he would sit us around the dinner table and quiz us on words because he was an English professor. So vocabulary has always been something that has been at the forefront of my existence from, it's part of the Jones lineage, my grandfather, my father, and it's come into play in a very helpful way in my broadcasting career. And I think, honestly, if we're being frank and honest here, undistilled, I think at times the broadcasting profession itself has been dumbed down to a collection of trite cliches a lot of times. And I think that you're not doing it justice if you're not using profound, bold, descriptive, and sometimes off the beaten path words to describe what's going on in any game or in any situation. That's part of the profession. Otherwise, hey, you could have a sixth grader do it with their respective vocabulary. So I think it's important to have. I have fun with it too. I like to think that, I try to appeal because, it's broadcasting, right? Shaun, it's broadcasting, not narrowcasting by definition. So I'm capturing people at the corporate end of the spectrum and the guys hanging out in the corner hitting a 40, right? With hip hop culture, right? I'm listening to Moneybagg Yo. I got Finesse 2 times. I got Mozzie. I got Dame's new joint that dropped last night. That's my world. And, as a 60-year-old guy, it's funny. One of the criticisms I often hear is, "Oh, he's trying to sound young." That's who I am. That's what I do. When I'm working out, I've got Wheezy on there. I've got Rick Ross. That's my world. That's the people I hang out with when I'm at the gym here in Miami watching NBA players work out. The 18 to 40-year-old hip hop crowd are the people who are me, and I'm them. So that explains it. Mixed in with a little bit of classic vocabulary, you mix it all together, and that's what you get during your Kings broadcasts.
Wow.
Exactly. That's one. Yeah, exactly. That's cool. That makes sense, Mark. That's really cool insight. I know I've been noticing Saturday. I always see you post about different players and different like Dane's music. I've seen you post about that. So it's really good to be well diverse. Switching lanes real quick to the NBA real quick. Looking forward to next season. As you know, the schedule just dropped and things of that nature. After all like the mid-season moves, postseason moves, trades, and all the acquisitions made by teams, I wanted to know, what team do you think next year is a sneaky good team to look out for? Kind of like our Kings were this year. What team do you kind of see, sneaking out of the NBA to really shock the NBA next year?
Boy, when you talk about teams I think did well during the offseason, in the Western Conference, I would watch out for the Houston Rockets. I really would.
I told y'all.
They're kind of that's my sleeper, man, because Ime Udoka is an elite coach. I believe he's a top 5 coach in the NBA. When you look what he did in his first year at Boston, taking them to the finals, being able to make that talent mix work. When you look at the pieces they already have, I was speaking just a moment ago with Jamal Mosley, one of the coaches of the select team with USA Basketball. Jalen Green was one of the standouts on that team against USA Basketball in scrimmaging against them every day. And then you add some veteran pieces like Fred VanVleet at the point, and on the wing, Dylan Brooks. Love him or hate him, he's a great defender. He's NBA all-defensive team. Shot selection can be a little bit questionable at times, but he's going to come into camp ready to have a big year because right now he's playing well with Basketball Canada as part of the World Cup. So I think Houston is a sleeper team. Another team I think that really has a chance is Minnesota. They're a team that gave us fits last year, right, in Sacramento with their length and their talent. Anthony Edwards is playing spectacular right now for USA Basketball. He's their leading scorer. I think that's another team that is bound to take a big leap this year. And for us in Sacramento, man, it's going to be a situation where we're not going to surprise anybody next year, right? I mean, finish the number 3 seed.
No.
But sometimes, I think Monty McNair did a fantastic job in free agency. Sometimes a huge win is defined simply as bringing back your own players, being able to get Sasha Vezenkov, the MVP of the Greek League, a EuroLeague player that's used to playing at a high level. Keegan Murray will be a year better, although he'll be at the top of the scouting report, not at the bottom anymore. And then just really accumulating the depth that they've been able to accumulate. And continuity is going to be a big thing, I think, that's going to benefit Sacramento. If the Kings finish 3rd in the West this coming season, I don't think you view it as staying still. I think you view it as a win, considering some of the moves that the other teams made.
Absolutely, Mark. And these guys laughed at me when I said that Houston was going to make the play-in this year. And, you got a guy like Mark Jones coming on the show and preaching it like it's the word of God. You gotta take it with a grain of salt. But we're going to skip on over to college football. College football season is approaching. I wanted to get your thoughts on the college football playoff. Who do you think is going to be in the top 4, and who do you think ultimately is going to be hoisting the championship trophy?
Man, I think it's the same old subjects, right? It's Georgia, it's Alabama. I think you've got Ohio State with Marvin Harrison, maybe the top player in all of college football, and then fill in the blank with the 4th. I'm still a little bit undecided there, but I think that Florida State might have a sneaky outside shot of filling that next spot, but I think when it comes down to it, it's you're looking at the SEC again, and Ohio State I think has an opportunity if they get the requisite quarterback play to break through a little bit. But it's going to be an interesting season. Every week in college football is make or break, and every season counts. That's what makes the season so unique and so special. Week 1, I'm going to be working with Louis Riddick. They split up Robert Griffin and I this year, and really looking forward to working with Louis Riddick, a real pro, former NFL player, GM. He's worn a lot of different hats, really bright intellectual mind when it comes to football. We're going to be down in College Station, Texas, doing New Mexico against Texas A&M. So little bit of heat on Jimbo Fisher to get some things done this year. So that's going to be a pretty compelling game to watch.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So just another follow-up question with college football. As you know, our man Jaevon Toddy is a USC diehard fan. So ever since Deion Sanders made the announcement that he was coming to Colorado, we've been trolling him all summer, letting him know that Colorado is going to come and make some noise. So I just want to get your thoughts on what Colorado's doing and the impact that Deion Sanders can have on the Pac-12 while the Pac-12 is remaining.
Man, he brought in his guys, right? I mean, that's the world of college football now. It's how advantageous can you be in, alchemizing the transfer portal to your benefit? And I think nobody's done it as well as he has in being able to get most of his guys to Colorado. What it looks like versus HBCUs versus what it looks like against the Big 12. Pardon me, they're not in the Big 12 yet. Versus the Pac-12, remains to be seen. But they've got some really good skill positions. They've got it covered there. The requisite quarterback play. I would think maybe a 9-3 season for them.
Wow.
I think that's about that. I might be a little bit on the high side. I'm not sure what the over/under is on the Buffaloes this year, but Deion is a wonderful tactician, tremendous motivator, and he'll have those guys ready to play.
Yeah, the over/under on the Buffaloes is 3.5 wins. So a lot of people don't
Really?
think 4
That's
wins.
crazy.
You don't think Deion can get 4 wins?
Everybody's guessing at the start of the college football season.
Yeah.
Everybody's guessing. Those preseason polls are about as useful as this after I mean, yeah.
It's very true. And Jaevon, I'm glad that you said that for me, because I actually heard that win total on the radio this morning on ESPN 1320 here in Sacramento. I just want to give a quick shout out to D-Lo and KC. They do a lot of great work over there at ESPN 1320. And the thing that they were saying on the radio is the fact that all of the people who may not be locked into college football, they're all betting the over on that. But then all of the sharps and all the expert bettors, they're all taking the under on that, which I think is pretty interesting. And just sticking with college football, Mark, as we're joined here by Mark Jones of ESPN and the Sacramento Kings here on episode number 46 of Stats Over Politics. I just wanted to stick a little bit with college football because we alluded to the fact that Colorado is on their way to the Big 12 and the Pac-12 is basically dead. And so as a college it's very sad. And
Bad day for the West Coast kids.
Oh, man.
It's a very sad day. And so especially for me as a Stanford fan, because we're kind of just left there by ourselves. And so just for you as a college football broadcaster, Mark, how do you think the landscape of college football is shifting now with it? It seems like it's leading to 2 mega conferences and then everyone else is just kind of left out.
Yeah, we're going to have, it'll be like the AFC and NFC in the NFL, right? That's what we're ultimately going to end up in. And college football is in a major place in a vacuum of hypocrisy right now, because they like to say, listen, we're told at ESPN to talk about what makes college football unique. What makes it unique? It's the rivalries, it's the venues, it's the tradition. And all of that has been eroded with conference realignment. You don't have a lot of the head-to-head rivalries like you used to have back in the day. USC against UCLA late in November used to mean something. Now it's a Big Ten game coming up. I mean, what is that all about? Yeah. And the hypocritical part about it is, you have athletic directors and legislators trying to cap NIL while they're chasing money on their own for realignment, right? Trying to get as much money as they can. The Pac-12 reportedly turned down $35 million per school from ESPN in a television deal, right? And they're saying it's not about the money, but they're limiting student athletes from having as much money as they can get. So I have no problem. I'm along the Jay Billis line of thought and Rodney Gilmore, a couple of my colleagues at ESPN, where let's run it like a business, because that's really what it is. Let's not pretend that we've got this romanticized version of college football. It's a money grab. Let's operate it like that. and let's throw all that other stuff away. Listen, and it hurts me to say that too, because I remember doing USC games when one of my most vivid scenes, let's talk about the Pac-12 and USC. I remember Snoop Dogg being at practice at USC. I remember John Robinson having, what's his name, the actor, James Caan at
Will
practice
Ferrell.
day, and seeing Darrell Russell run onto the practice field there at USC on campus. And that seems like 5 decades ago now, with all of the things that have changed in college football. So, we're getting towards we're going to have an 18 playoff, and it's no longer number one against number two. I've been through so many different iterations of what college football looks like that in the last several years, it's been really difficult to sink your teeth into a particular model of it. So that's where we are. And for better, for worse, it's still fun to watch. And for me professionally, it's a great game to call.
And speaking of calling, Mark, we mentioned earlier you've been doing this for so long, one of the GOATs in this game here. I wanted to ask you, what has been your coolest game or funnest game you've ever called? Like maybe you remember it so vividly, like you just mentioned one of those games right now. What has been your maybe crowning achievement, I guess you can say, or game that you've loved to call?
There have been over 33 years of calling college football. There have been so many fun ones. One that immediately comes to mind was one of the trophy games, right, in the Big Ten, the Paul Bunyan Axe game between Wisconsin and Minnesota. Wow. And Wisconsin had been running up and down the field on these dudes all day. Minnesota makes a big comeback, and they block a punt in the end zone with seconds to go in the game, pounce on it. And I remember shouting, a cataclysmic turn of events. And the players sprint across the field and grab the axe from the Wisconsin bench and run down the field with it. And they run to the goalpost, and they're mimicking chopping down the goalpost. That's one that kind of sticks out in my mind. And I think another one that I remember lately was Caleb Williams, now at USC, but previous to that at Oklahoma. He made a big play in that bowl game where he took the ball and saved his team from turning it over on first down. He went into the scrum with it and came out with it and ran for first down. But it was one of those plays you had to see and see to believe. But those are two that kind of stick out in my mind. But it was really more the Axe game with the Paul Bunyan Axe game. And I remember doing the Georgia Tech Virginia 1992 Citrus Bowl game, which was a de facto national championship game between Colorado and Georgia Tech, and that was a fun one to watch too.
Any NBA games too that stick out?
Pardon me?
Any NBA games that stick out to you?
Oh man, I think my dream was, 2 years ago, I got a chance to call the NBA Finals. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Golden State against Boston. I called games 1 and games 2, which was a career highlight for me. But a sidecar to that would probably be being able to call a Sacramento Kings game with my daughter, Sophia Jones, as a sideline reporter just last year. That was a highlight. And then to call a San Jose State women's basketball game against Boise State with my daughter as the color analyst. She's going to be a senior this year on the team. That was last year. That was really cool. That was really cool. Calling one of her games the year before was a highlight too. Being able, when you call your own kid's name, I remember she made a nice Iverson crossover move and said, Sophia Jones with the floater, good. And it was kind of out of body experience to hear myself call my own daughter's name, and by the grace of God, that was a wonderful opportunity.
Special moment right there for sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
Definitely. I hope there are more.
So Mark, we're gonna go skip over to the NBA one more time.
Sure.
I gotta get your top 5 NBA players right now.
Top 5 NBA players?
Yeah.
Well, they got to be a dog Just barking back. Top 5 NBA players.
It's tough right now.
Wow.
A lot of good guys out there.
Yeah, I would start with, and I'm going to preface my remarks by saying I'm a little bit partial to guys who play both ends of the floor.
Okay.
These 5 guys I'm going to give you may not be first team All NBA, but I'm
it's
somebody. Somebody that appreciates players that play both ends of the floor. Jimmy Butler. I love watching him play. The way he gives it up on defense, can get buckets, especially playoff Jimmy Butler. Anthony Edwards is quickly becoming one of my favorites. De'Aaron Fox is another one of my favorites to watch because of his blinding speed, scores in the mid-range, and a very underrated defender. Just now, people are starting to realize that he actually gives it to you at the other end of the floor. Giannis has to be in that group too, because 2-time former defensive player of the year. He's giving you 30 plus a game at the other end, and an NBA MVP champion. And then I'm going to go with the guy who's still in the leathery winter of his career, LeBron James.
I knew it. There it is. So,
King James, baby.
How can you not? I mean, he's still in my top 5, and just from a cerebral aspect, and the stuff that he does on the floor is still very remarkable. People forget he was playing on a bad wheel to end the season, right? I think he's going to come back, and I would expect the Lakers to be in the Western Conference Finals this year, maybe against the Sacramento Kings.
There you go, Mark. Speak into existence.
Yeah. Those are my 5 right there, and I could probably go 10 deep, but those are some tough choices. But those are guys that I really enjoy watching.
So keeping it on the NBA path, I wanted to ask you a question. Everyone knows about Victor Wembanyama and the impact that he might or might not have on next year's season. I want to know what sleepers you have for Rookie of the Year that aren't named Victor Wembanyama.
Wow. Rookie of the Year. I think Chet Holmgren is going to win Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
I had a feeling.
I think Chet Holmgren has a great chance of winning Rookie of the Year. Been watching him play, saw him a lot at Summer League, watched them work out at Summer League. I just think he's in a situation where his team is going to be competitive enough for him to garner the requisite attention. He'll put up, I'm guessing he'll score between 13 and 15 a game, give you 8 rebounds. I think he's probably going to have to clean up a little bit of some of the stuff he does on the perimeter. But I think he's I don't know if you can call him a sleeper, but he'll be my pick for Rookie of the Year this year. I don't know if Scoot is a sleeper, but of all the rookies, I saw Scoot at Summer League, and in the small sample size that he showed, man, he was dynamic. He was imperious. I mean, he was snaking screens, getting to the elbow, making mid-range jump shots. And speaking with him, too, I was really impressed with his approach to the game. As a young kid, 19 years old, 18, whatever he is, he has that professional mindset already. So I think Scoot's another guy that once you get past the Wembanyama spotlight, it becomes, Chet and then maybe Scoot.
We're joined here by ESPN and Sacramento Kings broadcaster Mark Jones. Last couple of questions for you, Mark, because we really appreciate your time and we want to be respectful of it. Now that you've had about 3 years here in Sacramento, and I follow you on Twitter, and so I see you tweeting about your different excursions within the city and going to Rick's Dessert Diner and everything.
Hey,
and so,
Rick's, man, apple raspberry pie, it always hits.
Hell yeah. And so, away from basketball and the Golden One Center and everything, and just focusing on the city of Sacramento, What's some things that you've really grown to love here in Sacramento? Because I know your story about how you met your wife at Sac State when you were broadcasting for ESPN, and that's your connection to way back when. But now that you've gotten a chance to live here full time during the NBA season, what are some of your favorite things about the city?
I love Sacramento. It's been wonderful, just wonderful to my wife and my entire family, my kids. The Kings organization, Vivek has been outstanding. Stacey Wegson, Devin Fox, everybody from top all the way through. They've been great to me. It's a second home now. It really is. You catch me. My favorite, inexpensive, free pleasure, so to speak, is waking up in the morning and jogging around the Capitol. I run about 3 miles every morning, and anywhere between 9 o'clock after I go to Temple Coffee with my wife, walk the dog, let him do his business, get my espresso, gas up a little bit, run around the Capitol, get a workout in, and then get the day started, start doing notes and getting prep done for the game that night or that afternoon. And it's a great food town. You can catch me at McCooney 24/7. That's my favorite sushi spot ever. Echo and Rig is outstanding. We've really enjoyed the food. Sacramento low key got a great foodie scene. Alora.
They're sleeping on us, Mark.
Yeah, man. Outstanding Italian restaurant, Alora, down on Folsom Street. I could go on and on, but we really enjoyed the food scene there and the culture in Sacramento. Being around happy people is always refreshing. We find Sacramento really, really refreshing in that sense. Have wonderful neighbors. I'll tell you a story about being in Sacramento. This is back in 2020, year one for us. My wife and I moved into our place in Midtown, and a few hours after unpacking our boxes and getting settled, we hear a little knock at the door and hear, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Sue, and we're your neighbors next door. We know it's COVID, but we'd love you to come over for a bottle of wine and sit down and talk and get acquainted a little bit." And we were like,
people still do this?
Yeah. That doesn't happen in Miami, Florida, guys. But it really said a lot about the people of Sacramento and just how wonderful they've been embracing my wife and I and our entire family, and really, really love spending time there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Mark, we want to be respectful of your time. So we're going to go with one last question here.
Sure.
This kind of been a reoccurring thing we've kind of been doing on the show. Who would you like to see on our platform, Stats Over Politics? But before you answer that question, you got to help us try and get him on the show.
Okay. Who would I like to see on it? Wow, there's a lot of interesting people out there.
Absolutely.
You know who is a really I don't know if I can get you on the show. I don't know if I can get him on the show. Through my 30 plus years of doing the NBA and being able to meet with, I'll give you two names, being able to meet with these guys in our coaches meetings prior to games, I would say Steve Kerr and or Greg Popovich.
Legends.
Two guys who are
famous.
who take a panoramic view of the world. Two guys who impress upon their players the importance of their profession, simultaneously imparting the value of what goes on around us, because we don't live in a vacuum, right? And I think when you look at, like the name of your podcast, guys, the world and sports are inextricable. There's a word for you for today, inextricable. They're like this. You can try and separate them, but there is not any way, I believe, to do it. And, what some people call politics is another person's daily life, walking to the store and having an experience. Some people say, don't get political. It's not political. That's just what happened to me today. Right. So I think those two guys would be great guests for you, and somebody who is somebody as a player who's really good. Those are two coaches. There's a lot of deep thinkers in the NBA, and I tell you what, one guy who I always enjoy spending time with, and another guy that sees the world on a broad scale and oft misunderstood is Kyrie Irving.
Oh my goodness.
Von's favorite guy.
Yeah. He's got some interesting views on the world, and culturally, he has kind of shed light on things that people normally wouldn't think of, for better for worse. And I think any time we can keep conversation going and keep it civil and keep it simple at the same time and have empathy for each other, I think we're all better off.
Without a doubt. And we are better off now, Mark, after having you on our podcast. Thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. And we hope to speak with you again soon.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to tap in. I'd love to come back and do it again once the season gets rolling. Okay?
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, Mark. Thank you.
You got it. Stay blessed, guys.
You have a good one, Mark. Thank you so much again, man.
All right, so that's ESPN broadcaster Mark Jones joining us here on episode number 46 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Holko here with Garry Singh, Kevin Dent, and Jaevon Toddy. We're going to get out of here in a moment, fellas, but that was an awesome interview. I highly enjoyed it. I hope our audience did too. Real quickly, let's just go around. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. What was your favorite part about that interview?
Everything, man. And I know that's not what you're looking for, but everything. I enjoyed everything. We all talked about these questions for the past 48 hours to making sure that we were coming on all of our P's and Q's, and we just did a great job. We've been having to vet ourselves with other guests to kind of prepare us for this moment. So I just want to give a big shout out to you guys. I want to give a big shout out to the Stats Over Politics family, man. We haven't had views like that on our Twitter page for a while. So shout out to you guys. We can't do anything without you guys. So I just wanted to make sure that, and I speak for the four of us, how much we really appreciate all of you guys.
Without a doubt. Jaevon, what was your favorite? It was probably Kyrie Irving, right?
Or mention Caleb Williams.
Just, he was talking about the Trojans. He was talking about Kyrie. It was just an awesome experience just to, learn so much about him and just, kind of just his family and, the grassroots of how everything was kind of passed down from his grandfather to his dad to him and kind of how it was universal. And him talking about Jalen Green, it would have been crazy. Would have got a question of factor cap. You think Jalen Green or Austin Reeves?
I wanted to say something so bad, where I was like, no, Kevin, don't do it.
So, his top five was very interesting too. Wasn't really shocked because I saw the LeBronologist get a great grin when he had LeBron as that was obvious. Guy. Anthony Edwards being on his top fives is very telling because he's at the game.
Top five to watch,
and he's seeing these things firsthand. So, I think Anthony Edwards I've already thought that he's going to be like one of the top guys on there. So I know Wes is over there having a parade wherever.
Bro, texting me like, I was like, bro, going crazy for the Minnesota love. As soon as he said it, I was like, I'm gonna get a text. My phone goes.
So I just thought it was insane. Just for to have him on the show,
Young Rockets.
I mean, the guy literally lives on ESPN. So for him to take the time out of his day to be on our show speaks volumes.
And Garry, before I get your thoughts, I just have to highlight a really important YouTube comment from T. It says, pick up the dictionary, fellas. Start working on expansion of vocabulary. I could not agree more, Tracy.
Take some notes from the
right?
GOAT.
Exactly. Garry, what was your favorite part of that interview before we get out of here?
Didn't want to copy Kev. I like the whole thing, but like kind of what's standing out, I just thought about it for a little longer. Again, copy what Kev said again. Appreciate everyone who's been tuning in, who's been locked in with us. You know what I'm saying? It's been building up every week and everything like that. I know we've all been working hard and we've been loving what we're doing. So I know you guys been enjoying it. I've been enjoying it. And it's cool to see other people enjoying it as well. So shout out to the fans also who've been supporting. But for this interview right here, again, appreciate Mark for taking the time of even doing Vaughn mention. He lives on ESPN, so him to even take 30 minutes out of his day to, help some young fellas up off the ground here to be really cool, from guys in Sacramento trying to start something new. So that was cool. I think that was my favorite part, is him mentioning, the love he has from Sacramento, being a Sacramento kid. I'm not gonna lie, I felt really proud for hearing, our city, our people who are around him, he's meeting good people. So I'm glad he got to meet the good Sacramento people, and, he has a good positive view on our city, because, sometimes I feel like our city's obviously slept on, and him, bringing some light on it right there, showing love to it for our food scene and just the people we have here is really cool. And I think that speaks on our Sacramento Kings, man. That speaks on our team. That's bleeding into our team and our fan base. And like I mentioned before, I think everyone knows he probably would have said that too. We didn't get a chance to ask him, but we're one of the loudest fan bases on purpose. So I feel like, that Kings like the beans been beaming through. So I'm glad to see it.
It sure has. And my two favorite parts were kind of bookends to it. First, when I asked him about his vocabulary and the fact that he was saying that he had his family, I can't remember if it was his dad or his grandpa, but quizzing him at the dinner table about what does this word mean? What does this word mean? And that's kind of how he started to expand his vocabulary. And then he talked about Malcolm X and how Malcolm X would read the dictionary as well. I just thought that was so cool. And then also just how he referenced our podcast name, Stats Over Politics. Like we came up with that name, and Kevin, I think, was the one who came up with the idea. And the idea for the name was basically like, there's so many narratives out there when it comes to sports. And it's like you can call it politics, and we say that we're politicking. And Mark really hit the nail on the head, where it's like, to some people, what might be politics, other people is just lived life experiences and what they deal with on a daily basis. And I mean, I'm a white man, and so like I don't experience it like other people might. But it's just being mindful of what others go through and deal with. And I just thought it was awesome. And I greatly appreciate Mark for his time. Unless you guys got anything else,
Mark,
jump in real quick.
I was gonna say, Mark was talking about like Moneybag Yo and Finesse 2 Times. He's taking pictures with like 21 Savage. He was talking about Mozzie, like, bro, just how he just
well diverse man.
Everything was just
well
crazy.
Diverse
like,
man.
It's he's for the culture for sure.
And real quick. Go ahead, Kev. Go ahead. I was gonna say real quick. No matter, we could.
You go.
I was gonna say real quick. One thing I did like quick. Cool thing we didn't even get to ask him, but like cool thing that he got to experience. I think first from like just from an outsider's perspective and just being a fan, like you guys all said we are, him supporting his journey and things of that nature. It's really cool that you get to do something. Cover your game, your daughter's game as a play-by-play guy. That must have been something special. So that was just a cool little stick out moment. I feel like that was really cool for him as just a fan to see, for someone to enjoy that right there.
Closing it out here on episode 46, That's Where Politics. Just be on the lookout, man. You never know. We might have Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr, Kyrie Irving. Hey, man, make sure you hit that bell, because we can come on a day like a Friday at the middle of the day. We all have to change our schedules when we have a guest like this. We're on their time. So just make sure you guys are support and keep the love, and we really appreciate it.
Without a doubt. And Kevin, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because after Monday's episode, I had one of our listeners ask, how can I get notifications every time you guys go live so I can tap in right when you guys start on a Monday at 7 o'clock or on a Friday at 1 o'clock? And what you got to do is, once you hit subscribe, hit that subscribe button again, and then click on all. So you get all notifications. You get the notifications. You get a 30-minute warning. We're about to go live in 30 minutes. You get to see all the great clips that Kevin's putting onto our YouTube page. So we appreciate all our subscribers. If you want to keep getting notifications for all of our content, hit all. And just thank you to everyone for tuning in, especially in the middle of a work day. We've had a pretty big audience today, and we greatly appreciate all of you. We're going to continue going, and it's time to get out of here for episode number 46 of Stats Over Politics. You guys know the deal. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It really helps a lot. And if you like the show, hit subscribe. Get notifications when we go live, and click all. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics, and on Twitter at Stats or Politics. See all the great content Kevin's putting out there. And on audio platforms, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. If you're enjoying the podcast, give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you've been tuned into episode number 46 of Stats Over Politics, for Jaevon Toddy, Kevin Dent, and Garry Singh, I'm Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in. And the guys will be back on Monday night. See you then.